Hello everyone, Average Adam here, and we're doing kind of a different video today. I want to go through all of the heroes that are in the game, see what we have and what we don't have. Basically, I've taken a look at a lot of people's ideas and mock-ups for heroes that people have wanted to see in the game, and there are quite a few of them, of heroes in Blizzard's lore and his various universes that they could draw from to create some truly awesome heroes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each of the main the main Blizzard universes, and we're going to go through them and look at what we have and what we don't have. And you'll kind of see what I mean by that as we get going here. So first off, let's talk about the WARCRAFT universe. WARCRAFT, yes, started the whole Dota craze with Warcraft 3's Defense of the Ancients mod, which became the Dota that we know today in all the MOBA games out there. But what WARCRAFT now is World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft is the class-based MMO that everyone knows and loves. And the 11 classes, they're pretty well covered so far, but we're still missing a few slots. The 11 classes in World of Warcraft right now are the Warrior, the Paladin, the Hunter, the Rogue, the Priest, the Death Knight, the Shaman, the Mage, the Warlock, the Druid, and the Monk. So far, let's look at what we got. Okay, here's what we have. Paladin, we have Uther. Uther pretty much encompasses the Paladin, and I think they could squeeze out another one if they tried, but pretty much he takes care of everything that people think of when they associate with Paladins. Lots of stuns and holy abilities and healing and stuff. And then we have the Death Knight, which of course is Arthas. Arthas pretty well encompasses the Death Knight and everything they do. A little bit of diseases, a little bit of frost. It's essentially what the Death Knight is. Death, summoning dead things, that's what they do. So Death Knight is pretty well covered through Arthas. Then we have the Monk. Chen covers the Brewmaster side of things with his drinking and his leaping and stuff. It pretty much covers. Lily is kind of a pseudo-monk. She doesn't really have a class, but she's kind of a Mistweaver, which is the healer version where she throws cups. I mean, it's very vague because a lot of her abilities the monk doesn't actually have, but you can kind of consider her a pseudo-monk. So I think the World of Warcraft monk is pretty well covered between these two awesome pandas. Then we have the Shaman class. Shaman's well saturated. Between two heroes, they have everything pretty much well covered. Rhaegar's got the restoration healing side of things, and Thrall has the elemental and the enhancement. Kind of a mix match for him too. He's everything. He is Thrall, by the way. Thrall is overpowered. So between these two awesome orcs, we have Shaman pretty well covered. I don't really think they can really throw out another one because most of the main iconic abilities for the Shaman are covered in these abilities. So Shaman, they're well covered. Mages. In World of Warcraft, mages have three different types of specs: Fire, Frost, and Arcane. What we have right now is we have our Fire Mage Kael'thas, our newest hero, and then we have our Frost Mage Jaina, which they pretty much encompass what those two classes play like. When I play those characters, I feel like I'm playing my Mage again, who was the first class I made in World of Warcraft. So we have the Mage covered. We'll get to the Arcane Mage in a minute. They could squeeze out one more there. And then we got the Druid. The Druid fits in pretty nicely. Malfurion is, of course, our Druid representative. He's kind of a balanced restoration. Balance is kind of the spellcaster Druid with Moonfire and stuff. Restoration is the healing Druid. And Malfurion pretty well covers that. What we don't have, however, is the other types of Druid, which we'll get to in just a minute. That's a class that does need more work. The Priest and Hunter is kind of half-shared between Tyrande. Tyrande's kind of a special case there. She's got the healing powers of the Priestess of Elune, but she also has Hunter's Mark and a bow and arrows. So she's kind of a mix-mash between Priest and Hunter. But we'll get to that later. So that's what we have right now. Those are the heroes that we have that cover the classes in World of Warcraft. Here's the ones we need. So Hunter, yeah, we got Tyrande, but she doesn't fully encompass Hunter. What we have coming, though, what we know is Rexxar is incoming, and he's going to be a Beastmaster Hunter that dual wields two axes, so kind of a specialized hunter. And he'll have Misha for sure. I'm sure he'll have Misha, his big pet bear. If you played Hearthstone, you know all about Rexxar, and you kind of have an idea for what he's like and stuff. So Rexxar is going to cover the Hunter, and we got that. That's cool. Hunter's good. Warlock. The Warlock class has no representation right now. We do know that Gul'dan is coming. We have seen a model for him. Sorry, not Gul'dan. Cross it out. Cho'Gall. We know that Cho'Gall is coming. We have seen a model for him. Cho'Gall is a two-headed ogre warlock. And he works for Deathwing, Twilight Council, and all that fun stuff. So they could actually do 2 Warlocks. And when I say Cho'Gall and Gul'dan would probably be the 2 biggest picks, I think, from the universe. They're 2 most iconic Warlocks. They could do a Demon-focused Warlock and a Shadow-focused Warlock, kind of a Spellcaster Warlock. They could do 2 different kinds, and I think both of them would fit pretty well. Maybe make Cho'Gall the Demon Warlock that summons Imps and Voidwalkers and Doom Guards and all those awesome demons that we get to see. And then have Gul'dan be the Caster Warlock. I want to use Chaos Bolts. Okay, I love my, Destruction Warlock in World of Warcraft. I love Chaos Bolts, and Chaos Bolt is just so powerful. Big green ball of fire, kind of like a Pyroblast, only it's green. Yeah, it's cooler than it sounds, trust me. So they could do 2 different kinds of Warlocks. The Rogue, we don't have any Rogue coverage. And the only 2 that I really have in my mind, there's actually 3. Valyra Sanguinar, of course, is the Blood Elf Rogue that everyone plays as in Hearthstone. So a female Blood Elf will be cool. We don't have one of those yet, and they got kind of a cool attitude. They could also choose one of the Van Cleef family. And if you don't know the Van Cleefs, they're the Defileless Brotherhood. It's a faction in World of Warcraft. They're bad people, essentially. I don't know the full story behind them, but there's 2 of them. There's Edwin Van Cleef, who you may know as the Hearthstone card that gets the extra stuff. Edwin's the leader. When he died in World of Warcraft, his daughter Vanessa Van Cleef took over. And, you know, they could have poisons and fast auto attacks. They could have stealth just like Zeratul and Nova. They could be kind of a stealth character. I think that'd be well covered. They can actually get a couple of them. Also, Maiev Shadowsong, who helped take down Illidan, or helped you take down Illidan in the World of Warcraft raid. She's kind of a pseudo-rogue too. She could fit that role also. Maybe something similar to Katarina from League of Legends, dagger throwing and stuff. Just an idea, but some stuff that they could do. So the rogue could be covered with poisons and stuff, so we need some rogue coverage, and those are my picks for what pretty much could cover that. So warrior, I know we got a lot of orcs, but when the warrior comes to mind, there's really only 2. There's Grommash and his son Garrosh, Hellscream. They are pretty much the brutish warrior type characters. They can wield Gorehowl. I don't think we'll ever get both of them, probably one or the other. They will wield Gorehowl for sure, that awesome axe that everyone loves. So maybe even Varian Wrynn could cover his own warrior. I know we have a Blade Master character coming. It was a hero in the original Warcraft 3, and they could make a special orc Blade Master if they wanted to, but I think that Garrosh or Grommash would be the best picks for a warrior, and I think warrior has enough in it in of itself, the class itself. Warrior was one of my mains in World of Warcraft. They have enough to probably squeeze 2 classes out of there. I think pretty easily they could get 2 classes out of it. So definitely warrior needs to be covered, because warrior is a lot of fun, a very, very, very fun class in World of Warcraft. They could do a tank guy and a DPS guy. So, and then we got the priest. We have no priest coverage right now. We need it. So my big picks is we could do 2 different kinds of priests. One that's kind of holy, and one that's kind of shadow. So here's what I was hoping. For the holy priest, either Anduin Wrynn or Prophet Velen would best fit those roles. Anduin Wrynn is, of course, son of Varian Wrynn, the leader of the Alliance, and then Prophet Velen is, of course, the leader of the Draenei, which is pretty awesome. I mean, they could take either of those and turn them into a pretty good, cool healing class. Give them resurrection and stuff. That'd be kind of cool to resurrect people on the battlefield. And then I thought for the Shadow Priest, they could best do with another Mix-Mash character, being Vol'jin. Vol'jin or his father, Sen'jin. But I think everyone would like Vol'jin a lot better, because Vol'jin is the current leader of the Horde right now. Thrall did step down after Garrosh took over, and Garrosh is, of course, no longer leader of the Horde, so Vol'jin is now the leader. I think Vol'jin would be good. He's kind of a shadow hunter, essentially, is what he is. He's kind of a mix-mash between hunter and a priest, so he could be, you know, kind of a shadow hunter, shadow priest kind of character. I think Vol'jin would fit in very well. Next, going back to the druid. We do have Malfurion, but we need more. We need a shape-shifting druid. I like what Hangus suggested. He wanted Brol Bearmantle, who basically helped Varian Wrynn in this kind of gladiatorial arena. There was a comic about it. I haven't read it, but I've kind of looked over the wiki. Brol Bearmantle was able to shapeshift. So what they could do is probably a class that could shapeshift maybe into the cat form of druids and the bear form of druids. Druids can shapeshift in animals, and maybe even have them turn into the eagle, the raven, whatever it is. I never actually leveled a druid, so I don't know what it is, but their flying form for their mount and stuff. We do need a shape-shifting druid character, kind of a Nidalee-esque character, I guess you could call it, from League of Legends. I do a lot of comparisons to League because I used to play League, so that is the druid. We need shapeshifter, brawl bear mantle. Next, the mage. We have the other two. We need an arcane mage. Arcane is needed so bad because I actually do enjoy arcane. Arcane's pretty fun. My pick, of course, is Millhouse Manastorm. Kind of a funny gnome. He's a funny character. He's appeared several times in World of Warcraft. Silly. He's absolutely crazy. He can do arcane missiles, arcane explosion, and we need a mage that uses mirror images because that's pretty iconic. So being able to transform into 4 little gnomes disappearing all over the map, that'd be kind of cool. I want to see Millhouse Manastorm in this game. That'd be awesome. And if not Millhouse Manastorm, I think Archmage Antonidas, Jaina's old master, could pretty much cover that role also. So Arcane Mage is still needed. So there's quite a few things we need from the Warcraft universe. We also have a couple things we know are coming. We know that Gelbin Mechatork is coming out. He's going to be in this little gyrocopter here. And we also know that Zul'jin is coming out, but we really don't know what he's going to be doing. We know what he does in his raid in Zul'Gurub. It wasn't Zul'Gurub, it was Zul'Aman. Zul'Aman was the raid in World of Warcraft that we got to do with him. Transformed into animals. And I don't know if they're going to go that way with him, or if we would really no clue what he's going to be. We've seen a couple images of him, and he's on the big splash screen, but we don't know what he is just yet. Other characters I could pull from the Warcraft universe include Kel'Thuzad. I mean, Kel'Thuzad had a raid so popular in vanilla, WoW, that they went out and remade it for Wrath of the Lich King, and even gave it its own Hearthstone expansion. Kel'Thuzad's a lot of fun. He's one of the people who helped turn Arthas into the Lich King, help him rise to power. So Kel'Thuzad definitely could be a really good pick. Then, of course, we got the dragon aspects. We got Nosdormu, who's the Dragon of Time, Alexstrasza, who's the Dragon of Life, either Malygos or Kalecgos, his successor, who kind of stole it from him, but it would be the magic one, or Ysera, the dream one. I can't remember what she was, and then Deathwing, of course, was the Earth Warden before he fell down from power. But I think that Nosdormu, as kind of a time dragon aspect, would be really cool. They could do him pretty well. Malygos would fit. I think all the dragon aspects could fit. If any, of course, they'll probably choose Deathwing first, or Deathwing as Palatime. I can't do a lisp like Palatime does, but Deathwing would definitely be a cool character too, and in his human form, of course. The real Deathwing is so large that there was an entire raid encounter on the back of him. So, not the dragon form, but the human form definitely could be done. And then we got Lady Vashj. So Lady Vashj was a raid boss in the Burning Crusade, which she was on the same tier of raiding as Tempest Keep, which was Kael'thas's raid, where we got to kill Kael'thas. I think Lady Vashj would be really cool. Maybe they could take some nods from Nami from League of Legends and make her the Mer character kind of thing, Merfolk character. She could be kind of a healer, off healer, whatever, with some damage, you know. I would like to see Lady Vashj, because we do need a Naga. We need a Naga in here. And then we got the Elemental Lords in the World of Warcraft universe. There are 4 of them. There's Alik'r the Wind Lord, Therazane, the Earth Lady, I forget what her name is. And then we have Earth Lady, of course, Ragnaros the Fire Lord, and then Neptulon the Water, the Lord of the Water. Ragnaros, I think, would be the best pick, because everyone knows Rag. Everyone's fought Rag. They brought him back for an anniversary raid, and he got a whole expansion to himself in this last Hearthstone expansion. So everyone loves Ragnaros, and I think he'd be a great hero, you know, kind of swirling around in fire below him and stuff. I think that'd be really cool. They could do some good, cool things with Ragnaros. And I don't think it would say too much to have too many fire characters, with Kael'thas already covering kind of a fire mage character, but they can do more. They could do another fire mage. Maybe he'll summon fire elementals or something. Genn Greymane would also be a good pick for the... if you don't know who Genn Greymane is, he's the leader of the Worgen right now. And the Worgen are, of course, the werewolf trope from World of Warcraft. He could transform into a Worgen. I'm not exactly sure what class he covers. Kind of a warrior-hunter hybrid, if I had to guess. But they could definitely make a Worgen character. You know, he could transform between his Worgen form and his human form. Also, some of the demons, Kil'jaeden and Sargeras. Sargeras is, of course, the big bad demon in the World of Warcraft universe. Kil'jaeden's one of his #1 lieutenants, and is his #1 lieutenant. But yeah, they could definitely pull in one of those big demons. I'd love to see Kil'jaeden, and I'm sure we'll get to fight him again in World of Warcraft eventually, later on down the road. But till then, I think he'd be pretty cool. And then Trey Prince Gallywix would be really good because we only have one orc, or one, not orc, goblin. We only have one goblin character with Gazlo, and having another one would be kind of cool. I think they can do some cool stuff. Maybe put him in a big shredder machine or something. They could do something pretty cool with him. So that's the World of Warcraft universe, and so far we got pretty good coverage, but we need more. I know World of Warcraft has the most heroes so far in the game. It always will. It's the most fleshed out of all the universes. There's so many different great stories to tell and so many great heroes, and it's really hard to not include a whole bunch of them. I know they'll always have the most in Heroes of the Storm, and you shouldn't be too upset about that. I mean, the other universes are smaller in comparison to Warcraft's huge roster of awesome characters. So let's jump into the StarCraft universe now. We're going to talk about the 3 races of StarCraft, which are the Terran, the Protoss, and the Zerg. So those 3 races, one second here. Turn off the noise that's going on here. There we go. So we got the Terran, the Protoss, and the Zerg. What we have from Zerg, we have Kerrigan, the Queen of Blades, of course, Abathur, who is her evolution master, and Zagara, who pretty much covers the Queen unit. They all kind of work underneath Kerrigan. And we could probably use some more, but we'll get to that in a second. For Protoss, we got Zeratul, who is a Dark Templar, and we got Tassadar, who is a High Templar, and also an Archon. So we have Protoss only 2 coverages. We'll get to the rest in a minute. Terran, we got the most coverage from. We have Jim Raynor, of course, who's the awesome hero. Tychus, kind of a uber marine, I guess you can call him. He kind of his own hero unit. Nova, who covers the Ghost. Sergeant Hammer, who covers the Siege Tank. We need more, though. There's not a lot of StarCraft coverage, and there are quite a few heroes I can draw from. So Zerg, what we need. Overmind has been speculated and could possibly handle like Abathur. We have no clue what they're going to do with it, but I think they could make an Overmind character of some kind. I don't know if it'll ever be possible, but we'll see. They could do something with the Overmind. Infested Alexei Stukov. I already talked about this in the 10 Heroes That We Want video that Rurikon made. But he could kind of be kind of a caster character that manipulates the battlefield. Zerg is kind of a specialist class, so a lot of their heroes are kind of specialists in that regard because they like to manipulate the battlefield. Alexei Stukov could be a mixture of infester abilities like Neural Parasite and Fungal Growth, and maybe even Vipers with their ability to mind control thing. Or no, the infestors have the mind control. Vipers have the yank and pull or the reduced auto attack range. So he could be a lot of fun. Maybe summoning some other units that aren't quite covered, like the Leviathan. We need a Leviathan ultimate. Let's do it. Then we have maybe this one was kind of ambiguous. I thought of an Overlord character. And Overlords are just kind of boring blimp things that fly around and give supply to the Zerg units. But I think they could do something pretty cool with them. It could summon clones, changelings as they're called in StarCraft 2, that kind of become clones of things and give vision and stuff. I don't know if they could make that work, but changelings could work. They could summon more Zerg units, maybe drop Zerglings out of it, provide vision, something like that. I don't know if they could do an Overlord or not, but it could turn into maybe summon Broodlords and things. I don't know, but that's just an idea. And then Dahaka is the Primal Zerg hero who's now working with Kerrigan. I'm not too sure about him. I didn't really like his hero. He didn't have that many cool abilities in StarCraft 2, but some people want him. Then we got the Protoss. So we know Phoenix is coming soon. Blizzard's hinted at it a ton. Phoenix is a Zealot hero, later on became a Dragoon hero. So the Zealot is, of course, the melee unit of the Protoss, basic melee unit. They have a charge ability to rush to an enemy and attack them and stuff. And they could definitely do some cool things with Phoenix, and we know that's coming. So we are going to get another Protoss unit confirmed. Then we have Selendis, who could be a Mothership Core unit, kind of flies around in a Mothership or a Mothership Core, warps units around, summons Protoss flying units. We don't have any Protoss flying unit coverage. In fact, Protoss, we only got 2 real units. We don't have a lot of coverage as far as summoning little other units, which is something that I think most of the StarCraft characters should have covered. Zerg has a lot because they have a lot of little units, and Terran has a few, but we need more. And then we have Artanis, who could be another flying unit. He flew a Scout, if I recall correctly. So Protoss, there are some definitely heroes they can pull from to increase their roster. Maybe even a Colossus. That'd be kind of cool, a Colossus character. Or summoning a Colossus. Then we have the Terran. What we have is, or what we could use, is Rory Swan. This was the character who helped you upgrade things in the Wings of Liberty campaign, the first chunk of StarCraft 2, the first campaign that came out. He could be a Marauder hero, and Marauder is a big tanky guy that fires grenades, a lot of fun. I think they could do a lot of cool things with Rory Swan. Then we have Egon Stetman. Egon Stetman was a nerdy hero, kind of like a science vessel Raven mishmash, only he's a character with a bunch of things flying around him. It was very weird, but I think he could fit in pretty well. He's a funny, nerdy character that I think would fit pretty well in here. Another one is Gabriel Tosh, who's a Spectre. I know we already have Nova, but Spectres do have a few small changes to them. They could do Gabriel Tosh also. I don't really expect it, though. Either him or Mira Han. But I don't think that either of those would probably make it into the game. Another one I want to see is the Archangel, which isn't an actual person. It was a Viking hero. If you don't want to know what a Viking is a unit in StarCraft 2 that starts off as a ground mech unit, but can also morph into a flying unit and fire at air things. So the Archangel was really cool, and there was a actual custom mode that was made where you could fight bosses. And I remember fighting the Archangel. It was a lot of fun. You get summons rockets that kind of fly down and go all over the place and stuff. A lot of fun. Drink break. So also there's been rumors that Arcturus Minsk and Horus Warfield, stuttering a lot, that Minsk, I don't know if he'll make it in. I don't know what they would use him for. Spoiler alert, he is dead at the end of the Heart of the Swarm campaign, so, and he never really got in a big unit or anything. I don't know if they could use him, but they could find a way to fit him in. He is kind of the reason that we have Kerrigan being the Queen of the Swarm. So and then Horus Warfield, I think, was originally going to be the siege tank, if I correct with my assumptions, before they changed it to Sergeant Hammer, becoming a female character that drives the tank. One of those could make it in. They have been rumored. There are sound files mixed in of them, so we don't know if they're going to make it in or not. And then we have the Medic or Medivac. I'd like to see a Medic character that channels on to do healing. That'd be kind of cool. Kind of drains mana to heal. And maybe call down Marines, things like that. I think they could do a lot with the a Medic support character. And then we have the SCV. This one's kind of weird, but it can make buildings, bunkers, maybe make barracks that filter out Marines and stuff. It can repair buildings, things like that. I think that it could be a lot of fun with the SCV character. They can do something pretty cool with that. When it comes to the SCV, the drone in the what's the other thing called? The Protoss one. My mind just went completely blank. Bleh, 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 bleh. So the probes, yeah. The SCV, I think, has the most luck of becoming its own thing. I think a probe unit could also work summoning pylons and stuff, but I think the SCV would have the best luck as the starting building unit of a StarCraft character. So that's the StarCraft universe. There's a few things they could still draw from. Quite a few, and I'm sure there's more I didn't mention. So let's jump into the Diablo universe here. Diablo universe, the three main areas of coverage for hero creation is, of course, demons, angels, and the playable classes in the Diablo games. So what we have right now, as far as demons, we have Diablo himself, and we have the Lord of Sin Asmodan from Diablo 3, which has a lot of the abilities he had in the Diablo 3 battle. We also have Tyrael, who is the Archangel of Justice, and he's pretty well covered. And then playable Diablo 3 classes. We have Vala the Demon Hunter, Nazeebo the Witch Doctor, Sonya the Barbarian, and Joanna the Crusader now. So with those four classes, there's two more that are not quite covered yet. So those two classes that we'd like to see, and I'm sure we'll get eventually, are the, what do we got here? The Wizard, of course. The Wizard has its iconic Hydra, Meteor, Arcane Orb abilities. They could easily flesh out a full Wizard character. I'd like them to do the male Wizard, though, not the female. Male was just more my favorite as far as Wizards went. And then, I know that Palatine really wants this. He wants the Monk character, because Monk, I think, is his favorite Diablo 3 class. And Monk can, of course, zip around the battlefield really fast, seven-sided strike and all that fun stuff. I think Exploding Palm, yeah, he'd be a lot of fun, summoning down his giant bell and whatnot. So that could be very well covered, the other two classes that we need. What we have coming for Diablo, we have two characters that we know are on the way. Leorc the Skeleton King, so he will be coming for sure. He's the Act 1 mid-boss, which not really mid. He's the first boss you come across in Act 1. And then we have the Butcher, who is the final boss of Act 1. And we've seen models for both these characters, and they are confirmed to be coming, so we'll just have to wait and see how they flesh out. And then also some old classes. We could use some old classes. The one that people seem to gravitate towards the most was the old Necromancer from Diablo 2. And I think that could fit in pretty well. That or the Amazon would be those top picks, but I think the Necro has the best luck of getting in. I'm sure they could easily do that. There was actually a Necromancer cameo in Diablo 3 where you got to help a Necromancer out. They could throw him in the game. So then we got the Angels. So we only have one Angel, and Angels play a pretty big part in keeping the world of Sanctuary alive. They actually debated at one point whether or not to destroy the world of Sanctuary, the world of men, and Tyrael was the deciding vote who said, no, let's not do that. So we could have some more Archangels. The top picks, of course, for those would be Imperius, the Archangel of Valor / War, depending on how you're calling him. Imperius could definitely work as a very good frontline fighter. And then we have Ariel, I can never pronounce her name, the Archangel of Hope. She could definitely fit in as a support character. Her and Ithariel, the Archangel of Fate, those could pretty well fit in as support characters. Mothael, the Archangel of Wisdom, who of course is now the Archangel of Death and the final boss of the Reaper of Souls expansion in Diablo 3. They could bring in his Angel of Death version, I think would be pretty cool. I liked his kit, that big sweeping strike that he does and the death clouds and stuff. They can definitely turn him into a character pretty easily. So Angels, those are the four that I think would have the most. There's some other Fallen Angels that could make it in, but I think those are the best choices. So then we got Demons. There are plenty of other demons we can get in this game. Plenty of them. As far as from Diablo 3, there's 3 heroes that I really want, or 3 villain demons that I really want. I want Belial, the Lord of Lies. Belial was the Act 2 final boss, the Lord of Lies. He's a lesser demon, but actually, was he a lesser or greater? I can never remember which one's the lesser, which one's the greater. But Belial, the Lord of Lies, was my favorite fight in Diablo 3, simply because the battlefield changed and he grew gigantic and he slammed you, and it was really, really awesome. I remember that fight being really cool, and it was kind of the high point of Diablo 3 for me. So Belial could definitely make it in. Sadea, the Maiden of Lust. If you don't know her, she's kind of a spidery character. One of the lords of, I guess you call them the 7 deadly sins. Gluttony was one of them. In the form of Gom. Gom you actually got to fight. Sorry, my voice is kind of going out here. So Gluttony was definitely one that could be put in as well. But Sadea was the Maiden of Lust. And actually, this wasn't even going to be a fight in the game, but at BlizzCon, I think it was the BlizzCon I went to in 2009, there was a cosplayer who dressed up as the Maiden of Lust, and it was so well done that they put that character into the game. Of course, it wasn't based off it. It was concept art for this character, and the cosplayer made the costume for it, and everyone loved it, so Blizzard said, we'll go ahead and add that to the game. So, it's pretty cool. I'd like to see the Siegebreaker also from Diablo 3. Siegebreaker you may think is not that cool. It could pick up a unit, possibly, and like chomp them, do tons of damage to them. I also want to see a character that can run across the battlefield like really, really fast. I'm talking like Hecarim or like Scion's new running charge, and just be able to like run really fast until it collides with something. That'd be Siegebreaker. Has it written all over it. I'd love to see Siegebreaker added into this game. And then we have from Diablo 2. These are some of Diablo 2 bosses that I definitely think could make it in. We got Baal, the Lord of Destruction, who had his own expansion. Mephisto, the Lord of Hatred. Andariel, the Maiden of Anguish. And Duriel, the Lord of Pain. All of these guys can make definitely awesome characters in Heroes of the Storm. I didn't actually beat Diablo 2 back in the day, so I never got to fight any of those guys, really. But those are the ones I've looked at. They seem to have cool models. I've read about their kits, and I'm sure that Blizzard can find a way to include at least one of those guys over time. So, and then other characters from the Diablo universe we could see. Deckard Cain, of course. Everyone wants Deckard Cain. He's freaking Deckard Cain. He could be our first Diablo support character that we don't have. Stay a while and listen could be an ability. I don't know. People have made some weird kits for Deckard Cain, and Blizzard said they'd like to see him, but they're struggling coming up with a kit for him. So, if you guys have an idea for Deckard Cain, shoot it out in Reddit or something. Help Blizzard out. And then, possibly one of the followers. There were 3 characters that kind of follow your hero around. They're like added damage. Lyndon the Scoundrel, who was kind of an archer character, Cormac the Templar, who was kind of a paladinish character, and then Irina the Enchantress. Of all those, I think Lyndon's got the most personality. He could make a definitely cool character, but seeing one of the followers come in would be pretty cool. And then we have the Cow King, of course. There is no cow level in Diablo. Don't ever ask about that, because there is none. So the cow level could definitely work with the Cow King. They can come up with something silly for him. Zoltan Kuhl was a boss in Act 2 of Diablo 3. Kind of a magish character, had a slow time bubble, drop rocks on your head. He was pretty cool. I think they could do something cool with Zoltan Kuhl. That was not meant to be a pun, and I just now realized that. Magda was also a boss in Act 2. She could be pretty cool. And the Witch Adria, who kind of had a hand in causing Diablo to be reborn inside... what's her name? God, I forgot her name. Started with an L. I can't remember her name. The female character from Diablo, from Diablo 3, who Diablo was reborn inside of her, and we got that female form of Diablo that we got to fight as the final boss in Diablo 3. So they could actually also turn her, Leia, sorry, her name's Leia. They could take Leia and turn her into the female version of Diablo as one of her ultimates. That'd be kind of cool. So they could definitely make that work. So those are all the characters that I think can make it into the Diablo universe. And as Lost Vikings shows, there's other heroes they can get in as well. We're almost done here. So what I'd like to see is a Hearthstone Innkeeper. And what the Hearthstone Innkeeper would be, this is actually kind of cool. And listen to this before you shoot it down. He could throw out various cards that turn into, famous units from Hearthstone. Maybe the Chillwind Yeti, who's been very big, a Leper Gnome. I'd like to see one of his ultimates be Leroy Jenkins as a way of including him. He'll throw Leroy Jenkins out there and he'll charge out or something, or become Leroy Jenkins, just something. I want him to see Hearthstone cards brought to light, kind of a half Twisted Fate, half Summoner ability. That'd be pretty cool. And the next one, Tomator. And yes, that's a real name of something from the Lost Vikings, and it's actually their main rival. He is the evil emperor of the Crutonian Empire, who wants to capture the Lost Vikings and put them on display in his intergalactic zoo. I'm not making that up, that is how it is read. So, yeah, they could add Tomator in if they want to add another character from the Lost Vikings universe. Another one, this one's going to sound weird, but Superman could also make it into this game. Yes, Superman. But don't before you freak out and shoot me down. In 1993, Blizzard Entertainment, as it was called back then, I think it was Blizzard North, created The Death and Return of Superman, which was an actual game on consoles, and it was created by Blizzard. So it's not as far-fetched as it seems. Honestly, I would not like to see Superman get put in the game, because let's not start throwing DC characters in here and, ruining everything. But I'm just saying it's a possibility. It could, and if it did happen, cool, I guess, but yeah, it's something I probably wouldn't want. The last note we're going to touch on, we're almost done here, is Overwatch. So they have said, yes, they are going to add Overwatch characters to Heroes of the Storm, but not until Overwatch comes out, because they don't think it's fair until the game has had time to be created. So the first ones I expect to come in are Tracer and Winston. Those are kind of the two really big ones, maybe even Reaper or Zenyatta. They could add in all kinds of Overwatch characters. This brings me into my final point, which is tie-ins. Blizzard is really good at tying in their various games together. Like when you pre-order a collector's edition of one of their games, you'll get a pet in World of Warcraft. You'll get a portrait in StarCraft 2. They're really good at tie-ins with their other games. Something I think they could definitely do in Heroes of the Storm, and something I fully expect them to do as Blizzard Entertainment, is to tie in characters to other Blizzard game releases. I fully expect when Legacy of the Void comes out, probably this year, the new StarCraft expansion, we'll probably get another Protoss character. That might be when we get to see Phoenix come out for the first time. That would not surprise me at all. At the end of this Warlords of Draenor expansion in World of Warcraft, and so far they're hinting that Gul'dan will be the final boss. I have a feeling that at that point we will actually get Gul'dan as a hero. Gul'dan or Grommash Hellscream. I have a feeling that when... what's the other big thing. Diablo. I have a feeling that when they make another Diablo expansion, they may make another Diablo hero to go with it. It's character tie-in, so when Overwatch comes out, I fully expect to probably on day one or within a couple weeks of Overwatch coming out to have one of those Overwatch heroes as a tie-in to Overwatch in Heroes of the Storm. So there's definitely, Blizzard's really smart with their marketing, and I always give them credit for this, even though they take most of my money, and I don't, I don't get angry at them for that, but Blizzard is really, really good at tying in other Blizzard games together. So that's something I fully expect them to do coming forth in the near future. There's so many other heroes that they could create, guys. If you have any ideas for other heroes you'd like to see in Heroes of the Storm, let me know in the comments below. Let's talk about it. Let's discuss it. Let's come up with some kits. That's about all I had. We ran over about 30 minutes, so thank you guys for watching. Subscribe if you like the content. I hope you enjoyed this style of video. If you like this style of video, I might do maybe one less Heroes video every week, like gameplay video, and throw out an extra video like this where we kind of do some in-depth discussion about Heroes of the Storm. So if you like it, let me know, guys. Subscribe, talk to you all later, and have a terrific day.